For 53 years, since the last Apollo astronaut stepped off the surface in December 1972, we convinced ourselves we understood it. A dead rock, a great companion hanging in the sky, geologically silent, fully mapped, accounted for, comfortable in its predictability. Then, on April 6, 2026, 4 astronauts aboard the Orion spacecraft swung around its far side, the half that permanently faces away from Earth, and what they found there shattered that comfortable illusion in a matter of hours. The crew. Their names are Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. They are the crew of Artemis 2, the first time a woman, a black astronaut, and a non-American have ever ventured beyond Earth orbit. That is not a footnote. That is the sentence that opens the chapter. They launched from Kennedy Space Center at 6:35 in the evening on April 1st, 2026, riding atop the most powerful rocket NASA has ever built, the Space Launch System. The SLS stands 322 feet tall and generates 8.8 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. It took them out of Earth orbit in a single burn that lasted less than 5 minutes. From that moment, there was no turning back. The trajectory. The path they followed is called a free return. It means that even if the spacecraft's engine had failed completely after that initial burn, totally, catastrophically, and permanently, the moon's gravity would have slung them around and sent them falling back toward Earth on its own. Apollo 13 followed the same kind of trajectory in 1970. That tells you something about how dangerous this still is. The safest option available to the most advanced space agency on Earth is the one specifically designed to account for total engine failure. As Orion passed behind the moon at roughly 4,670 miles above its surface, the 4 of them became the most isolated humans who have ever lived. For 40 minutes, the moon itself blocked every radio signal between their spacecraft and the ground. No voice from Houston, no telemetry, no abort commands. Nothing but silence, and the oldest, most battered landscape in the solar system stretching out beneath them. Victor Glover, the mission's pilot, a Navy captain and test pilot who had already spent 168 days aboard the International Space Station, tried to describe what he was seeing in real time before the blackout hit. He couldn't. Not really. His exact words were that humans probably hadn't evolved to see what they were looking at, that it was genuinely hard to describe. When the signal cut out at 6:44 in the evening Eastern Time, the 4 of them were alone with it. To understand why the far side of the moon is so disturbing, you first need to understand how alien it is compared to the side we see every night. The near side, the familiar one, is covered in vast, dark plains called Maria, ancient lava flows that filled enormous craters and cooled into flat basalt seas billions of years ago. About 31% of the near side is this volcanic rock. It gives the moon its face, the one we've drawn and painted and mythologized for centuries. The far side has almost none of it, less than 1%. Instead of smooth plains, it is a wall of craters stacked on top of craters stacked on top of older craters, stretching to every horizon. It looks like something took a hammer to it for 4 billion years and never stopped. The crust is roughly 50 kilometers thicker on the far side than the near side, and no one fully agrees on why. The leading theory involves a cataclysmic impact near the moon's south pole, so violent that it sent a plume of heat rippling through the entire lunar interior, shoving rare Earth elements and radioactive materials toward the near side. That impact left behind the largest preserved crater in the entire solar system, the South Pole Aitken Basin. It stretches roughly 2,500 kilometers across and plunges up to 13 kilometers deep. If you place it on the map of the United States, it would swallow everything from Texas to Virginia. The mountains along its rim reach summit elevations of 8,500 meters. And buried beneath its floor, something enormous is hiding. In 2019, a team led by planetary geophysicist Peter James at Baylor University combined gravity data from NASA's Grail mission with topographic measurements from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. What they found was a mass anomaly sitting at least 300 kilometers below the surface, a blob of dense material weighing a minimum of 2.18 quintillion kilograms.
James described it as roughly equivalent to burying a pile of metal 5 times the size of the big island of Hawaii underground. Whatever it is, it's heavy enough to drag the basin floor downward by more than half a mile. The most likely explanation, it's the metallic core of the asteroid that punched the hole in the first place, still lodged in the moon's mantle after 4 billion years. Like a bullet fragment the body never managed to push out. The Artemis II crew became the first humans to see the eastern edge of this basin with their own eyes, not through a robotic camera, not in processed data from an orbiter, through the windows of their spacecraft. The Apollo astronauts never saw it. Their flight paths didn't take them over the right terrain, and their timing didn't align with the right solar illumination. Artemis II's trajectory was different by design, sweeping closer and at an angle that exposed roughly 21% of the far side to direct sunlight from the crew's perspective, enough to see features no human being had ever witnessed firsthand. One of the 30 science targets was the Orientale Basin, a nearly 600-mile wide impact scar that straddles the boundary between the near and far sides. It is 3.8 billion years old, and from orbit, it looks like a bullseye smashed into the moon's western limb. The crew had trained for months in Iceland and other volcanic landscapes, learning to recognize and describe geological features in real time. Koch noted that the smaller, more recent impact craters were shockingly bright against the ancient surface around them. She compared them to pinprick holes in a lampshade, glowing white against dull gray terrain. Before reaching the far side, the crew also observed one of the near side's most baffling features, Reiner Gamma. A bright, swirling pattern sprawled across the lunar surface like someone dragged a white paintbrush across dark rock. It has no elevation. It isn't a crater or a volcanic deposit. It's a flat optical marking that aligns perfectly with a localized magnetic anomaly in the crust beneath it.
The moon has no global magnetic field. Hasn't had one for billions of years. Yet scattered patches of magnetized rock persist in its crust, like ghosts of something that used to protect it. Reiner Gamma sits on top of one of these patches, and scientists still aren't certain whether the magnetism is shielding the surface from solar wind weathering or whether something else entirely is creating that bright swirl. The Artemis II science team flagged it as a priority observation, and the crew photographed it as they swept past. Glover became fixated on the terminator, the shifting line between the sunlit and shadowed halves of the moon. Along that boundary, craters transform. Sunlight strikes their rims at extreme angles, casting shadows so deep they look like holes punched through to the moon's core. Glover radioed down that the terminator was full of magic, that the islands of light and the valleys of shadow looked like black holes you could fall straight through to the center of the moon. Koch and Jeremy Hansen were simultaneously photographing Vavlov crater, perched on the rim of the older and larger Hertzsprung basin, deep on the far side. The Science Evaluation Room in Houston was updating the observation plan in real time, sending new guidance as the crew reported back. The crew also noted color variations across the surface that no orbiter image had fully captured. Shades of brown and green on the near side, subtle blue tints in certain regions. Color nuances that human eyes can detect, but cameras tend to flatten. These shifts matter because they reveal mineral composition and the relative age of surface features. The heat beneath. And then there's what's below the surface. In 2023, researchers detected a thermal anomaly buried beneath the far side, a region about 50 kilometers wide that registers roughly 10 degrees Celsius warmer than everything around it. The likely source is a massive buried block of granite, a rock type common on Earth but almost unheard of on the moon, because granite requires water and plate tectonics to form, neither of which the moon has. The researchers believe it may be the remnant of a volcano that went dormant 3.5 billion years ago, its residual magma still radiating faint heat into the crust above it. Lead researcher Matt Siegler noted that the finding looks far more like something we'd expect to find on Earth than anyone had thought possible on the moon.
And it raises a question nobody expected to be asking in 2026. What else is still warm under there?
Radar data and high-resolution imagery suggest the moon harbors underground tunnel networks formed by ancient lava flows, entrance pits visible from orbit that could lead to caverns large enough to shelter entire structures. Their true size, distribution, and structural integrity remain unknown. What might be inside them, whether trapped gases, pristine volcanic deposits, or temperature conditions radically different from the surface, is entirely speculative. Future Artemis missions may eventually explore them. For now, they're sealed. The Artemis II crew also witnessed something no human had ever seen from this distance or angle: a total solar eclipse from lunar orbit. As Orion dipped behind the moon, the sun slid behind the lunar disk and disappeared. Totality lasted nearly 54 minutes, far longer than any eclipse visible from Earth. The sun's corona flared out in a halo that Glover described as bright enough to ring the entire moon. Hansen reported that the sun was illuminating the entire perimeter of the lunar limb, ridges and peaks silhouetted against the burning white light of the sun's outer atmosphere. During the eclipse, both Hansen and Wiseman reported seeing what appeared to be impact flashes on the lunar surface, momentary bursts of light, possibly small meteorites striking the unprotected far side. Scientists in the evaluation room asked for more details. Both confirmed at least one brief flash, though they couldn't say how long it lasted. The moon has no atmosphere, no magnetic field worth speaking of, nothing between its surface and the full violence of space. Every micrometeorite, every solar particle, every burst of galactic cosmic radiation hits the far side with nothing to slow it down. Observers on Earth have reported brief flashes on the lunar surface for centuries, transient luminous events that appear and vanish before anyone can confirm them. The Artemis II crew may have just witnessed one. Apollo astronauts on the near side reported seeing mysterious light streaks behind their closed eyelids during their missions, caused by high-energy particles from galactic cosmic rays punching through their retinas. Those exposures lasted days. Some Apollo astronauts later developed cataracts at unusually high rates. Most lived long lives with no obvious radiation-related cancers, which was reassuring but statistically meaningless given that exactly 24 people have ever left Earth magnetic protection. Artemis II's crew is spending 10 days in deep space during solar maximum, the peak of the sun's 11-year activity cycle, when the risk of solar particle events is at its highest. A severe solar storm can push radiation to nearly lethal doses within hours. The Orion capsule provides more shielding than Apollo ever did, but galactic cosmic rays originating from supernova explosions and other cataclysmic events across the universe move at nearly the speed of light and can penetrate almost anything we've built. Dr. Alexandra Stankovich, founding director of the Center for Space Medicine Research at Massachusetts General Hospital, has called deep space radiation the #1 limitation on how far humans can explore. The showstopper, in her words. Researchers are testing experimental drug therapies, dietary supplements, and speculative gene therapy techniques borrowed from radiation-resistant organisms. Because if astronauts are ever going to live beyond Earth's magnetic shield for months at a time, engineering alone won't be enough. Biology has to be part of the answer. The Avatar payload aboard Artemis II carries bone marrow cells derived from the crew's own blood samples. Scientists will study how those cells responded to the deep space radiation environment after splashdown. That data is worth more than any photograph. During the communications blackout, the crew was beyond help. If a solar particle event had struck during those 40 minutes, Mission Control would not have known until the signal returned. The crew trained for this. They had protocols. Orion was equipped to continuously pump oxygen and maintain cabin pressure. They carried pressurized suits. None of that changes what those 40 minutes actually were. 4 people sealed inside a capsule the size of a large van, separated from Earth by 2,160 miles of solid lunar rock, surrounded by a landscape of ancient violence, bathed in radiation their species did not evolve to survive. When the signal came back, Mission Control in Houston erupted. The crew reported watching Earth set behind the lunar horizon,
a slow disappearance of a pale blue crescent sinking behind gray cratered rock. The image NASA released, dubbed Earthset, is a mirror of the famous Earthrise photograph taken by Apollo 8 astronaut Bill Anders in 1968. Except this time, Earth is leaving, slipping behind the far side, vanishing. Coach described the moment with a clarity that cut through all the technical noise. She said that when you have that perspective and compare it to home, it reminds you how much we have in common, that everything we need, Earth provides, that you cannot truly understand that until you've had the perspective of the other.
The crew named 2 craters during the flyby. One they called Integrity, after their nickname for the Orion spacecraft. The other they called Carol, after Reed Wiseman's late wife, Carol Taylor Wiseman, who died in 2020. It sits on the boundary between the near and far sides of the moon, a bright spot visible from Earth if you know where to look. Hansen described it simply as a bright spot on the moon. That's all it needed to be. Artemis 2 set the record for the farthest distance any human has ever traveled from Earth, an estimated 252,756 miles. Orion reached its closest approach to the moon at roughly 60,863 miles per hour relative to Earth. The entire flyby observation period lasted 7 hours. The crew took thousands of photographs, most of which haven't been downlinked yet due to bandwidth limitations. The full image set won't be available until after splashdown. Those images are going to matter. NASA has said the photographs of craters, ridges, and ancient lava flows could help researchers better understand how the moon formed, how the solar system evolved, and where to send future missions. The crew's descriptions of terrain features, shadow behavior, and surface textures will also inform where those landings happen. A site that looks flat and safe in an orbiter image might look entirely different when a trained human eye catches the way shadows pool in unexpected places along the terminator. The contested hemisphere. The far side is already contested territory. China's Chang'e 4 lander touched down on the far side in January 2019, inside Von Karman crater, the first soft landing on the far side in history, requiring a relay satellite parked in a halo orbit beyond the moon just to maintain communication. The Yutu-2 rover found minerals from the lunar mantle, olivine and pyroxene, confirming that the South Pole Aitken impact dug deep enough to excavate material from hundreds of kilometers beneath the surface.
In 2024, China's Chang'e 6 went further still. It collected samples from the far side and returned them to Earth, the first time material from the moon's hidden hemisphere had ever been brought back for laboratory analysis. Scientists are still working through those samples. The far side also offers something no other place in the inner solar system can provide: radio silence. It is permanently shielded from the electromagnetic noise of human civilization. Every cell tower, every broadcast signal, every Wi-Fi router, blocked by 3,400 kilometers of solid rock. For radio astronomers, the far side is the quietest listening post imaginable. Telescopes placed there could detect frequencies below 30 megahertz that Earth's own ionosphere blocks, opening a window into the early universe that has never been available before. Multiple space agencies have proposed building observatories there for exactly this reason. The moon isn't just hiding secrets on its surface. It's offering us a tool to hear the rest of the universe more clearly than we ever have. We've spent centuries staring at the moon's face and calling it understood. We landed on it 6 times and collected rocks from a handful of carefully chosen sites, all on the near side, and built a model of the entire moon from that local dataset. That's like landing a spacecraft in the Sahara Desert and declaring that the whole Earth is made of sand. The far side is where the real story lives, a landscape so ancient and battered that it records impacts the near side long ago erased under blankets of lava. A basin so large it may have shifted the entire moon on its axis. A metallic mass buried so deep it warps the local gravity field. Unexplained heat sources, sealed lava tubes, a crust so thick and so different from the near side that it challenges the basic models of how moons cool and solidify. Glover said it plainly after Orion cleared the far side and Earth reappeared in the windows. The moon is not just a poster in the sky that goes by. It's a real place. He's right. And the more we learn about it, the less comfortable that fact becomes. Because the far side isn't just different from what we expected. It's different in ways that keep forcing us to rewrite the story. The granite that shouldn't be there, the mass that doesn't match, the asymmetry that no single theory fully explains, the magnetic ghosts imprinted in a crust that lost its field billions of years ago, the moonquakes that Apollo seismometers detected, shallow tremors suggesting that something is still moving inside a world we told ourselves was dead.
Every answer the far side gives us opens 3 more questions, and the questions keep getting harder. The Artemis 2 crew is on their way home now, falling back toward Earth at thousands of miles per hour. They'll splash down in the Pacific on Friday, and when they do, they'll carry with them the first human observations of the moon's hidden face in over half a century. Not the sanitized version from orbiter cameras and processed data. The version that made Victor Glover, a Navy captain and test pilot who had already survived 168 days in space, say that what he was looking at was beyond what human beings had evolved to see. The moon is not what we thought it was, and we've barely begun to find out what it actually is.